Next question, candidates. What do you make of the current debt load that the region is carrying? There's been a lot of media coverage about how the debt is ballooning at a fast rate or faster rate than it has been, yet meanwhile Moody's says the region has a AAA credit rating and thinks that the region is managing its debt well. What do you make of the region's debt levels going forward? Sean Strickland.
Well, Mike, it's not so much what I think of the region's debt levels. It's really what the bond raters and the investment houses think of the region's debt levels. And Moody's has rated us a AAA debt level. They've also said we have much more room to increase the amount of debt we have at the region of Waterloo. And I think it's important to recognize, and I mentioned this earlier, the amount of money we're spending on infrastructure. And it's very difficult sometimes in the municipal environment. People, for example, complain about traffic. But then you go and build a road, like for example, the Fairway Bridge extension. There's a new bridge on Fairway Road. And that road costs about $35 million with the bridge. Weber Street expansion, $50 million. You look at our regional budget, we spend over $70 million a year on roads. Much of that is debt financed. And so in order to continue to make those investments in infrastructure, I mentioned the $1 billion in water wastewater, partly funded by development fees, partly funded by user rates, but also by increased debt. So in order to build our community, maintain that infrastructure capacity, you have to take on debt. And Moody's says we're AAA, lots more room to take on debt. I don't think we should, but we have a AAA rating, and that's pretty darn good.
Yeah. Well, Sean, can you please respond to that?
Well, I would say this. I was kind of nodding my head and say not true. In fairness to Bob, partly true. But for anyone who's lived in this community for the number of years that I have, how often have you cursed that intersection, that Weber Street crossing, when it's at grade? You're sitting there and there's a train that's coming across on Weber Street just north of Victoria. So for many years it's been on our radar to have that grade separation so cars no longer would have to go across, they would go under a bridge. So that project's been in the works for over 10 years, partly related to help with overflow traffic from LRT on King Street, but also because it's a needed piece of infrastructure. If we weren't doing the LRT, we still would be doing that grade separation. We did a similar grade separation on the Delta in Cambridge. No LRT there. We separated the trains from the road. That cost over $30 million.